Lieutenant. You can pet him
Why should I?
to show him that you're friendly.
Why doesn't he show me first?
Welcome to episode 43 of the Columbo podcast, where we are both fully trained and safe to pet.
Stay away from the ears.
Don't give it a tickle.
Yeah.
One of us is safe to pet anyway, Ian. Not sure which one.
Well, we'll not give them any clues.
Nope. How are we doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good. Episode 43 this week.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Approaching the finale of the
Well,
original run.
We are, and also the anniversary of the podcast. Not too far away, 9 weeks.
Is it?
Well, 52 would be...
Suppose. Yeah, we've done one
I mean, in
per
theory,
week.
1 and 2 came out together, but yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember when we launched the first?
Start December
Was it?
2014.
A few weeks yet.
Yeah.
A few months yet.
Well, yes.
So not approaching the...
In terms of recording, though,
Yeah, true. What have you been up to?
I'm on holiday this week, so I've been relaxing and watching Columbo.
Really?
Pretty much that's all I did today.
Good. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
It's a good episode. Will we crack on?
We might as well, let's get into it.
Let's have your summary then.
In How to Dial a Murder, we meet Dr. Eric Mason, a psychologist who runs a course that teaches people to take control of their lives. Having discovered an affair between his best friend and his wife, he takes his own advice, killing first his wife and successfully escaping suspicion, and then his friend with a little help from his Dobermans, Laurel and Hardy. Lieutenant Columbo doesn't believe that the dogs acted of their own free will in killing the victim, Dr. Hunter, and sets out to prove it with the help of a dog training expert and the information a strangely sloppy killer is happy to hand out. Without knowing the command, it will be difficult to secure a conviction, however, and with the dogs due for destruction, time is running out. Can a visit to an old film lot provide the vital clues, or has the lieutenant lost control for once?
Thanks for that, Ian. Did this episode remind you of any others?
Yes.
Which ones?
The fact of the earlier death that turned out to be a murder reminded me a bit of Try and Catch Me, although it wasn't the same perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
The opening shot reminded me a lot of Dead Weight, with the sort of panning around the house and the focusing on different items within the room. Thought that was familiar. There's some hints again of suitable for framing with the multiple killings and that as well.
Sure. It just shows you how we can watch it and both take different things, because
Well,
you missed the two I immediately thought of. But you're quite correct. For me, I was reminded of Double Exposure, because it was the sort of mind control element of things, that theme, and also Deadly State of Mind, because the murder was committed via telephone.
Okay, yeah.
Remember the psychiatrist
Yeah,
made her
yeah,
jump?
remember that, yeah.
Anyway,
And it was mind control as well.
we start in a house at night, as we often do in Columbo, a large house.
Yeah, we open with a atmospheric piece of music
Ominous.
and a locked gate with a K on it, which I believe may be familiar to some.
Very familiar. Before we go much further, have you seen Citizen Kane?
No.
No, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I think you get more from this episode.
It's quite a mediocre film.
Yeah. But you're right, we do start outside the house. We see a gate with the letter K on it.
Camera focuses on that. It's not just a passing shot. We've got a lingering moment there before we progress to the interior.
Yeah, I think it's integral to the overall flavour of the episode.
Yeah. We go to a sort of a living room where there's a fire burning and the credits start to roll and we see that Kim Cattrall's in it.
Yeah.
Familiar face from Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
also more recently and more
Mannequin.
popularly, Mannequin, Sex and the City,
Oh yeah, that as well.
bits and pieces of other things.
We focus on a photograph of a happy couple and a third person in this image.
It's a vital clue, but you don't know what it's about at this point.
We should, or we can discuss just now that this is another Columbo episode where we're not given all of the information at the outset.
Yeah.
I mean, we find all the information about the killing, but not the purpose, not the
The motive
motive behind it, yeah.
We get there.
We do.
The phone rings.
An old-fashioned phone.
Yes.
And we see two Dobermans react. They're outside,
Yep.
but on the phone ringing, they enter and they approach the phone.
Yep, and a male hand is seen unplugging it at the ground level.
The phone continues to ring in another room,
Yep.
and the camera moves smoothly through the house.
Again, this is what reminded me of Dead Weight with the moving around the house. We get
Nice tracking shot, I think that might be called.
yeah. There's a board we see on the wall. Again, I think this is from Citizen Kane. I didn't know, but it's a board that's marked Rosebud, and the camera again focuses on that. So it's like, here's your key things: your gate with the K, the board marked Rosebud,
And the snow globe, which is also relevant to Citizen Kane.
okay. Phone keeps ringing and ringing.
The dogs approach again.
Yep, and then you hear a voice.
A whispering voice.
It says Rosebud,
Yes.
and the dogs attack this sort of dummy that's hanging there.
Yeah, quite a creepy looking
So
thing.
the impression you get is that they're being trained to protect the premises as guard dogs,
And Rosebud is the attack word.
essentially.
Command.
Although that doesn't make a lot of sense, because guard dogs who need a command word aren't going to be that really useful at protecting the property.
But yeah, property protection.
Yeah.
But if it's for your own personal
Well, I
protection,
suppose then, yes, that would make
yeah,
sense.
it's a bit like saying if you have a gun, it's not useful if it's just in the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
We move to a lecture hall.
Yeah, lecture theatre, and Dr. Mason is there giving a talk on taking control of your life,
Yeah.
like I mentioned in the summary.
So let's make this clear. The house that we were in belonged to Dr. Eric Mason.
Yes.
Now, how would you describe him? What's his...
He's a psychologist, and he runs this course, which is a self-help type thing,
Yeah.
where people are taught to learn techniques that prevent the words of others controlling them.
Yeah, it's a little bit psychobabbly, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah, it's nonsense.
Okay. He is on the podium, and he is explaining how death is inevitable.
Yes.
More inevitable, in his case, for some than others.
Sure.
And we see he is accompanied by his two dogs, Laurel and Hardy.
They're there with him,
On
and
the
they're
stage, yeah.
friendly enough. They're interacting with the students.
He is one of the very sort of charismatic and passionate Columbo killers, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a strange moment where he asks someone to move seat, and he explains that the lecture hall's only half full because they didn't want to crowd folk in. They want to talk about the... I suggest they probably just didn't sell out the
That's what I was going to
course.
say, yeah, absolute nonsense. He would have packed him into the rafters to make a bit of cash, I think, if he could have.
Absolutely. So he's trying to make a point there to cover his own embarrassment.
He's a good salesman, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's marketing his business properly. You wouldn't want, in fairness, you wouldn't want these students or these customers to leave and say to people, it was half full, it was empty, it's not very popular.
Yeah. The people in attendance have dials. You see this quite a lot nowadays, still, this technique with political things. People are set, a control group will be watching a political debate, and they'll twist a dial in reaction to what the candidates are saying. So you'll get, positive response when they speak positively about the NHS, and negative response when they talk positively about immigration. These sorts of things.
Topical.
Yeah. And then he's asking them to do this, so they're finding out which words people are reacting to, and he asks a fellow up in the booth, which we come to learn is
his friend and employee, Dr. Charles Hunter.
That's the man. Who is clearly a valued colleague, part of the process.
Oh, very valued.
And he reads out the results from the testing and says that there's certain words, the word death, got a big response on the dials, and he's critical of the group. He says, you've let this word take on too strong a meaning.
I think it's fair enough, really. Death is an emotive word.
Well, you would say so, but he's telling them it's just words, so don't react emotionally to anything.
Yeah, it's nonsense, isn't it? We all know it's just words, but it's what they mean. Not
if you're not reacting to words, why are you listening to a podcast?
Well, if you don't react to words, what do you react to? Just dance.
Interpretive dance.
So he tells them that he's off for lunch, but they're not.
Yeah, they've not done well enough in the test, so they've got to count down from 100, and he gets 3 very enthusiastic folk to jump up on stage and lead the countdown.
Yeah. So we go to his office in the institute or the educational establishment, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's talking to Charlie.
Yeah, and he's got his dogs, Laurel and Hardy, with him, and they talk about his wife.
And his work. I mean, I think the impression we get here is that he is not happy. His work isn't fulfilling him as much as it should, and that's probably related to the situation with his wife, which is...
Well, he says he knew that his wife was seeing someone else, and my immediate note is probably Charlie.
Oh, yeah?
Given that he's there.
Yeah, sure.
And it makes sense that the killer and the victim would be together early in the episode.
Yeah. And his wife has died 6 months prior in a car accident.
Yeah, supposedly.
Charlie doesn't really want... Well, Charlie says that he's down, and this is how this conversation starts, and he says, listen, do you want to talk about it? And then he talks about how he thinks...
Yeah, he says, you still want to talk about it?
He says, no, not really.
No. So they come to a compromise of playing tennis.
So do you think that Charlie, when Eric or Mason said to him, do you really want to talk about this now? And he says, no. Do you think that he knows that he knows?
I just think he doesn't want to get into it because he knows. Charlie knows what the truth is, so he doesn't really want to get into the conversation.
Yeah, okay. But you think if you're hiding it from...
I don't think Charlie believes that Eric knows, because otherwise why would he be getting involved with tennis at the house and stuff like that?
True. So they arranged tennis at Mason's house at 3 p.m, but Mason tells Charlie that he has a medical with a Dr. Ernie Garrison first. So Charlie has to let himself in, take the dogs with him, and Mason will arrive, hopefully, as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's quite ominous, this setup.
It is. We go to the doctor's office, and we see Mason on a treadmill.
Yeah, it's 5 to 3, there's no way he's going to make his appointment.
No, he had no intention of making the appointment. He's on the treadmill having his medical, and we hear the score is quite nice, different parts of this episode, because the heart rate is used, or it's certainly a drum, a beating, throbbing
to get the
score.
attention going, yeah.
So we hear his heart rate monitor, and we see the output machine
EKG,
graph thing showing you his heart rate.
Yeah.
And as you say, he looks at the clock, and it's nearly 3 p.m.
We're kind of flicking back and forward between two scenes now.
Yeah.
So Charlie arrives at Mason's house with the dogs, lets himself in, and gets a wave off Kim Cattrall from the pool.
Mm-hmm. The sound of the heartbeat can still be heard, which is nice. So you see it in the doctor's office, but we also see it for the next few scenes.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to talk about who Kim Cattrall is at this point. We're going to come to her a bit later on. She's a Joanne Nichols. She lives in the guest house.
We'll get to her later, but yeah, she's swimming in the pool.
Yeah, she gives a wave, so she knows what time he's arrived.
Just after 3 p.m, Mason is lying on the bed resting. So he's completed his medical, and the doctor wants to monitor his resting heart rate.
We talked earlier about episodes that we're reminded of. This exact same thing happened in Troubled Waters.
Yes.
Where a fellow meant to be resting, getting an EKG, does something that shows up in his heart rate.
Mm-hmm. The doctor leaves, and Mason calls home.
Yeah.
The phone rings, and the dogs again enter from outside on this ringing, and they start to growl and whine at the phone.
Yeah.
So it's the command.
It's 2 parts.
It's a 2 parts, so you can't accidentally just say, which is a nice safety mechanism. You wouldn't want somebody just to say Rosebud and be attacked. So these 2 parts.
Well, I don't know if we know that. If the Rosebud might work on its own, but the purpose of him having the phone part is so that they're in the right place when he says Rosebud.
Yeah, but I think it is a 2.
It does seem to put them on alert, so you can see that they might be connected, but we don't ever see them getting told Rosebud without being at this point to know if it would work without it or not.
Charlie answers the phone.
Yeah, and he gets this spiel about the doctor wanting to argue this toss about the name of the sleigh, or the name on the sled. And Charlie says, it's hanging in your den, it says Rosebud. And the dogs are like, rah, 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 rah. Mm-hmm. And he says, repeat that. I'm holding the phone up, say it really loudly. And he says, Rosebud, and the dogs attack him.
Yes.
And Eric gets a little fist pump.
Yes. This actual death scene I thought was really nice, and it's quite bold for what is this, a daytime TV show. There's some real sort of fantastic direction here as we see the glee on Mason's face, and it cuts to the phone, which is swinging. So the camera follows it from swinging to seeing nothing to swinging so that the camera focuses on the attack and then back again.
Yep.
I thought that was really nice, but really well done.
Yep, it was good. And the only note that I've made there is surely the EKG is going to show up the increased heart rate. Mm-hmm. There's no way you could mask that.
Yeah. So this is quite a horrible death, isn't it?
Bit gruesome.
It's a bit...
He's shouting for his friend.
Would you prefer to be gored by a bull or attacked by 2 Doberman?
No.
That's the correct answer.
It's interesting, though, that we get evidence later on from Nichols, who says she heard him shouting Eric. Mm. But Columbo doesn't put that together with the phone call at that point.
No.
It takes a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's beside the point right now.
The doctor returns, and Mason tells him that he has never felt better in his life.
Well, he's avenged his betrayal. He's been betrayed by these 2 people, and he feels that he's, fair's fair. Mm-hmm. They're even now.
Although, in fairness, we still do not know that or have it confirmed at
Yeah.
this point.
I mean, I think, objectively, he's in the wrong here, but I think a lot of folk who have been in that situation might well empathise with him.
Certainly. Dr. Charles Hunter, who was played by Joel Fabiani, born in 1936. He has starred in All My Children, Dynasty, Cannon, and Ironside, to name but a few.
Mm-hmm.
Not much else. I mean, nothing particularly high profile. More of a TV character actor. We go back to Mason's house, and it's now the crime scene.
Okay.
The body's removed, and we see dog unit vans await.
Yeah, but Columbo's playing with the dogs. They've turned docile again.
Yes. Mason arrives, and he sees Columbo up on a balcony or a sort of second level.
Veranda type thing.
Yeah. Wrestling and playing ball with the friendly dogs.
Yeah.
Just before they're taking away.
Yeah, and Columbo sends the dogs back to animal regulation by throwing a ball for them to chase.
Yeah.
Shouts, they're all yours, lads.
As we've established before, the new producer, Simmons, he was trying to establish a more dramatic or playful entrance for Columbo. So
This is not an exceptional entrance, but it's good.
No.
I think this is still in line with a lot of the earlier episodes.
yeah, but I mean, you'd expect the typical entrance of a cop would be to chap the door and say...
There's a lot of those.
You know,
or he shuffles into a crime scene, or he's late, or something like
he's
that.
doing something here that you wouldn't necessarily be doing in that position.
No, absolutely. Of course, we need to take into account at this point, in relation to the dogs, that Mason needs them to be destroyed before anyone finds out what he's done with them.
Yes.
Even though they're his friends and whatever else.
Yeah, I think this shows the ruthlessness of the killer, that he is happy enough or not too distraught about having to have his own pets killed.
It's not made clear. It might perhaps have been his wife's dogs.
Could be.
It turns out that Columbo knows a bit about Mason.
Yeah, well, first of all, he IDs himself. And Mason confirms that he's a doctor of psychology.
Yeah, not a medical doctor.
No. And we get a nice exchange about his height.
Yeah, he's about 3 steps up. And Columbo says, "You're tall."
He says, what, tall for a
physician or for someone who's...
psychologist?
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah. But, there's a few of these little comedy exchanges.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually himself, as you mentioned there, he suggests that his dogs need to be destroyed. And that does seem a bit odd. You'd think in this case, any sort of pet lover would be pleading it's not their fault, whatever. But
then I suppose he's trying to play the game that he's concerned about his best friend having been killed, and playing up the fact that the dogs are dangerous, they could turn at any moment.
True.
Because they've done this unprovoked.
Columbo recognises Mason for what he is or who he is in terms of his position.
Apparently Mrs. Columbo wants to take one of his sessions.
She's a big fan. Well, we know she's into sort of night schools and night classes.
She does do that,
She's likes a bit of self-improvement, so that seems quite reasonable.
Yeah, sure.
They then discuss how well trained the dogs are.
Were they trained, sir? I mean, some kind of guard dog training?
The only training they've had is to be affectionate.
The victim, Mr. Charles Hunter.
Dr. Hunter.
Dr. Hunter, sir. Did the dogs get along with Dr. Hunter, too?
With everyone.
Including Miss Joanne Nichols, sir?
Look, I don't know how many ways I can say it, Lieutenant.
Right, sir. According to Sergeant Burke, Miss Nichols called in her report just after 3 o'clock while you were still at the doctor's. I understand she lives with you, sir?
Not with me. On the premises. In the guest house.
Right.
I've never believed the myth about Dobermans turning into spontaneous killers. I still can't get it through my mind. Something happened. Charlie must have done something to provoke an attack.
Can we just step into the house?
And they go through to essentially a den, sort of film memorabilia.
Yeah, movie memorabilia room.
It's quite clear that Mason's a big film buff. Columbo's impressed.
Yes, there are lots of stars of the past, the sort of silent era and 20s and 30s black and white movies.
W.C. Fields gets sort of pride of place. He's got a big giant poster of his face and then his actual pool table and cue.
Yes.
Whether those actually are the ones, I don't know.
Columbo decides to have a go with the bent pool cue.
Yeah, he does not succeed.
He doesn't. It's a funny scene, but the one thing that always stands out for me is that, and this is a total no-no, he's hanging over the pool table with the cigar, which is
yes.
The ash is about to fall. That's, you get any sort of decent pool hall or whatever, You'll be told no cigarettes or smoking. Well, you can't do it these days anyway.
It's a valuable memorabilia piece.
You don't hang ash over a pool table.
And Mason doesn't seem concerned.
No. He's probably more concerned about getting caught for murder than the cloth on his pool table at this point.
Columbo starts to talk about phone calls.
Yes. Now, Mason tells Columbo that he did not call Charlie when he realised he was going to be late. And this takes us back to what we've mentioned on many, many occasions, call records. This could easily be established if a call came from the doctor's office.
Yeah, or not.
Or not. In this episode, we decide to ignore it.
Yes.
Columbo remarks that he is not good at games, but he bets that Mason is. So I think at the moment he's starting to think that this guy may know more than what he's letting on.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be a killing, then it's someone who's given instructions to the dogs, and Mason's the prime suspect in any consideration. Who else is going to have trained his dogs to kill? So if it is a killing, suppose for Columbo's point of view, is it a killing? And if it is a deliberate killing, then it's Mason.
Yes. Columbo then notes a baby spotlight, and he asks about the rosebud sled. So they're having a discussion about some of the things.
Yeah, they go through the memorabilia quite a bit, yeah.
Mason gets annoyed as Columbo asks him if he was expecting someone to call at 3 p.m, which is a fairly nice subtle clue that Columbo's picked up on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a critical point here because they know the phone was in use.
Yes.
Because of the dial tone that it was giving out.
Yeah, he proceeds to highlight the problem with how the phone receiver was found.
Yeah.
He explains to...
He stops Mason going through to see it, of course, in the kitchen because of the gore. But he notes that the phone in the den was unplugged.
Yes.
And that the phone in the kitchen was left hanging. Yeah. And that the signal, he calls it a fast, busy signal. And the only way you can get that is if someone has phoned into you and the call has been terminated at the other end.
Yes.
You wouldn't get it if you called out and they terminated the call, and you wouldn't get it if the phone was just knocked off the hook.
Yeah. Those were nicely worked clues.
Convenient, but yeah.
We say convenient, but that's how it would have happened.
Yeah, but if it had been a call out, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference then between a call out or...
But it wouldn't have been a call out the whole...
Yeah, in this scenario it wouldn't be a call out, but I'm just thinking, in another scenario, if a plan did involve a call out, given what Columbo's just said, you wouldn't be able to tell between that or the phone being knocked off the hook.
No. I suppose it's far easier to call in to instigate your plan as to get someone to call out.
Absolutely. I've noted here the continuing frustration of what data you can get from telephones and what you can't. So you can tell specifically there's been a call in, but you can't tell where from or anything else about it.
Columbo still has to find answers as to why the dogs attacked, and he mentions then the tragic death of his wife 6 months prior.
Again, this is the part I mentioned being familiar in relation to Try and Catch Me. You've had a very recent death in mysterious circumstances that's been classed an accident. So that was kind of familiar sounding. Columbo leads on from that into needing to know who called because they must have heard the killing and didn't contact the police.
Yes.
Which is fairly critical. Although that's not necessarily true, they could have hung up before the killing happened.
They could have, yeah.
And the other guy could have been sitting there going, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. Mason mentions that after the untimely death of his young wife, that he had turned to his friend Charlie and his dogs. So I think he's trying to establish a closeness that would not require murder.
Yeah.
As Columbo leaves, they discuss the house, and Mason tells him that it used to belong to Theda Barra.
Is that a real person?
Yes.
Tell me about them.
Don't have much information.
Okay.
She was well, I can tell you this. She was a movie star back in the day, a bit of a vamp, I think they refer to her as. Unfortunately, most of her movies have been destroyed. There was a fire, and there's very few movies left of her. I think there's quite a lot of sort of still images. But yeah, bit of a silent movie star.
There you go. And was this actually their house?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Columbo leaves, but he says that he will be seeing Mason again until the case is settled. And Mason's not sure what he means. We have a clip.
Okay.
We'll be seeing more of each other, sir, until the investigation is settled.
Lieutenant, it's not that I haven't been impressed by your company, but what is there to settle?
Well, it's that telephone again, sir. You see, whoever called Dr. Hunter must have heard those awful sounds in the kitchen, sir. Must have heard the dogs and a man dying. Dying and screaming, sir. And nobody called the police. We never got a report, sir. Not a single one. Except for the young girl down here in the guest house. So you can see, we would like to know who made that telephone call, sir. You understand, sir. Good day, sir.
I think he's making his position very clear.
Yes. Mason then looks worried.
He
Because
looks anxious, yeah, doesn't he?
you would do. He then sees Columbo not leaving, but changing direction as he whistles this old man and go to the guest house.
Yeah. Now, I think we need to think of this from Mason's point of view. He must already know that things aren't going to plan.
Yeah.
Because he would have thought this will be written off as an accident straight away. Bear in mind that 6 months ago he's gone through the exact same thing when he killed his wife. And he did get away with that.
Yes.
So he'll be very aware that this is not going the same way.
Correct.
So no wonder he's anxious.
Yes.
Columbo is going to speak to the aforementioned Joanne Nichols.
She describes how she found the body. And she's hugging a teddy bear. And says that her folks were not happy with her leaving to live with Mason. And that she is a young student.
Yeah, she moved in when Mrs. Mason was still alive. So the two of them were there, and she got to live in the guest house in exchange for helping to kind of keep things neat and tidy around the main house.
She herself now admits that she thinks she's in trouble.
Yeah.
It's quite a weird scene.
I think she's having some kind of psychological drama going on here because she's seen this gore and mess in the kitchen. Some kind of regression, maybe. She's hugging a teddy bear.
It's just odd, isn't it? It's a bit back to the whole sort of, Daddy.
She's a bit fragile, isn't she?
Yeah.
She offers to make hot chocolate, and Columbo accepts, but then she drops and smashes the mugs.
Yeah. Also, she mentions that she agreed to live with him after consulting her teddy bear, Sigmund.
Obviously named after Freud.
It's actually a nice change, this, but it's a sort of implied sexual subtext. Or you're certainly thinking there must be some of that there. But it turns out not to be. It is a case, but not the way
That you would think.
you would think. Yeah, as you say, she offers hot chocolate to Columbo, but he has to earn it. That's what she says.
Yeah.
I don't know, what is it?
I'm not entirely
Getting the
sure
milk
what's
out or
going on.
something.
Yeah. He asks her at that point about Dr. Hunter. She says he was around a lot, and she talks about the dogs and how they were terrific company.
Yes, and that he would often take the dogs away on his own at weekends. She doesn't know where.
Who would take them away?
He would.
Mason would.
Yes.
Not because obviously he's just asked about Hunter, but
Yeah.
it's Mason that takes the dogs away. To be clear. She then breaks the mugs, like I said, and Columbo, in the first of a couple of weird moments, grabs her by the hands and tries to reassure her and leads her by the hand over to the seats.
Yes.
But it's kind of like he's almost taking advantage of her. It seems the way he's done it. He's probably not trying to, but it's a little bit off.
She tells him that she did not hear a phone ringing before the screams.
Yeah, and normally she'd be able to from the pool.
Yeah. Columbo's puzzled at first, but he finds the answer with a bit of a one more thing.
Yeah, I don't think this needed to be one more thing. This would be a natural follow-up question. But yeah.
Well, he didn't actually say one more thing. He just pondered it himself and then
Anyway,
realised.
I do have it as an almost a one more thing though.
Yeah.
He's about to leave. He's halfway out the door.
And what he discovers is that she was swimming under the water.
Yeah, she says she was diving and would have been under the water, so she wouldn't have been able to hear it from there. Which is completely contradictory to what she's just said seconds earlier.
Yeah. But Columbo's happy enough with this response. It fits in with his
He's found an
narrative.
answer he likes. He's going to take it.
Mason then startles Columbo, who enters just as he is leaving. And he approaches Joanne. She's distraught.
Yeah,
but
she gives him a big hug and he talks to her about taking control before he's prepared to comfort her, but
to
she's
use
not
a
having
control
that.
word to regain this her composure.
Yeah, she's not interested. She's completely lost composure and starts talking about blood.
Yeah, she's got a new control word.
You then get the bit that you hinted at earlier where he suggests that she's wanted to leave ever since she realised they'd never be lovers.
Yes, we would have expected that the sort of older man would have been trying to take advantage of the younger girl, but that wasn't the case. It was a nice twist on the expected convention.
Yeah, that's not to say that he hasn't taken advantage of the fact that she's interested in him. We don't know. We don't see anything, but he could well be using that as a tool to manipulate her.
Possibly. From the guest house, we go to the kennels. And that's the scene that we sort of heard at the top of the podcast.
Yeah.
Columbo backs off from some barking Alsatian as he approaches.
Yeah, he's wanting to talk to the trainer there about the Dobermans and asks about different types of behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
And he's told about reverting and how this thing does happen where dogs will go sort of feral and wild, but the trainer's never heard of one where the animals go docile again afterwards.
No. And Columbo seems sort of surprised to discover that a dog can be trained to attack with any word. It doesn't have to be like kill or attack. It can be, whatever. It can be rosebud or it could be flowers or anything.
Kiss. Yeah.
Kiss, yeah. And then Columbo wonders if his dog, can be trained to be a guard dog, and they have a look at it. Doesn't seem as if it's going to be the most effective.
She doesn't think there's going to be anything to work with there, so she leaves, and then there's a nice little moment between Columbo and dog.
Yeah, but before that, she actually suggests that perhaps his wife tries karate rather than relying on...
if he needs something to protect her, yeah.
What's the nice little moment you refer to?
The trainer leaves, the two of them alone, and Columbo gets down to dog's level, and it's just a nice affectionate moment. You can see that he really cares about the dog, and they have a little chat.
Yeah, it's a nice shot.
It's good.
The trainer was played by Tricia O'Neill. She was born in 1945. She has starred in Titanic, Gia, Diagnosis Murder, Matlock, Murder She Wrote, Deep Space Nine, and apparently, and you maybe can confirm this, she is has been the only female captain of the Starship Enterprise when she played Captain Rachel Garrett in Next Generation.
Yeah, that was a sort of a time-shifting episode.
You remember it, yeah?
Yeah.
We move from one kennel to another, but this time it's the police dog pound.
Yeah, Mason's arrived, so he wants to see his dogs.
The officer has to check with Columbo if he is allowed to visit.
And in the meantime, leaves him with the dogs.
Yes. Mason wants to know when his dogs will be destroyed, but the cop says that Columbo is doing everything to keep them alive. This is not what he wants to hear.
No. And the officer goes out to get Columbo, and it looks like Mason's going to poison the dogs.
Yeah.
He's trying to give them chocolates, but then he eats the chocolate himself.
I don't understand that. So what was he doing there?
I don't know.
Was he perhaps he was just there to find out if they're being destroyed?
No, but he does say to the dogs he needs them to do him one more thing.
Yeah. So is there a type of poison that would be unharmful to humans but would kill a dog and that he could easily access?
I'm not aware.
It was a confusing scene. What was he trying to do here?
I have no idea. Columbo shows up just in time to stop him giving the chocolate to the dogs anyway.
And I see the way it's played out, this scene, it looks like he thinks that Columbo thought he was going to poison it there. That's why he ate it to prove that it wasn't. But I don't know. Wasn't the greatest of scenes, was it?
It's a bit of an awkward one.
Mm-hmm.
Columbo segues into asking about straw on the kitchen floor.
Yes, and he claims quite reasonably that it must have been from some crate of wine that he had purchased.
Yeah, it was actually, of course, from the dummy.
Columbo then asks Mason what he did with the dogs at the weekends. And he claims that he took them walking and thinking.
Yeah, down to various different beaches.
Mm-hmm. So, no help there to Columbo. Mason leaves.
Yeah, and like you say, Columbo tries different attack words. He tries kiss, which he heard at the training ground, and he tries kill, and he tries all sorts of random words.
Yes.
Diamond, I think, maybe was one of them.
But
the phone rings.
And Columbo understands
that they react to that. He's fascinated, you can see him.
He says terrific and he snaps his fingers. This is one of his eureka moments here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you recognise the chap who played the pound policeman or officer?
I did not.
He is none other than Ed Begley Jr.
That's a familiar sounding name.
Yes. He was born in 1949. This is his first of 2 Columbo episodes. He starred in St. Elsewhere. He was in Spinal Tap, Arrested Development, Veronica Mars, 6 Feet Under, Seventh Heaven, Quincy, Battlestar Galactica, and he is the son of the actor Ed Begley, who starred in many things, but I know him most for his role as a juror in 12 Angry Men. In fact, these days, Ed Begley Jr. is probably more known for his environmental activism.
Okay. We end up back at Mason's work.
Yes, in a lab.
He's in this place where we saw his friend originally tracking the data, and he spots a spike, so someone's playing one of the dials.
Hmm.
And he looks over and Columbo's in the lecture theatre.
Yes.
And they have this exchange, and Columbo talks about secret words.
That can be used to control people's lives.
Yeah. I'm not sure Columbo's buying it.
No. So they go to a meeting room, I think it is.
Yeah, Columbo thinks someone wanted the dogs to kill and suggests maybe Mason was a target.
Yes, especially after the fact that Mason's wife was killed in
Suspicious circumstances.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So Columbo already knows, I think, what the situation is
of
here.
course he does.
Mason questions if Columbo truly believes that he was the intended victim. And we have a clip of the exchange.
Is there someone who hated you and Mrs. Mason enough to see you dead?
Do you really believe that?
Well, sir, I can't say that I do. It's just that we have to consider every side.
You do that very well. You're a fascinating man, Lieutenant.
To a psychologist, sir?
You pass yourself off as a puppy in a raincoat, happily running around the yard, digging holes all over the garden. Only, you're laying a minefield and wagging your tail.
It's just the job, sir. It makes us look that way.
We'll discuss it sometime. Your whole personality.
Oh, I would enjoy that, sir.
I loved the simile about the puppy in the field
Yes.
laying mines.
Fantastic, wasn't it? I think it sums him up very well.
Yeah. I've actually made a note here, and it's
That's
really,
that is unlike you, Ian.
well, it is unlike me, about Peter Falk's performances, and it's really for the whole of season 7 up to this point.
Sure.
And I was just comparing it to how he'd been in some of the earlier seasons. I think it's been a lot more tight and clear, and I wondered if there's maybe less improvisation or something going on, because my feeling was that in season 7 his performances were much sharper.
Less Patrick McGowan, perhaps.
Who knows? Anyway, that was just my feeling.
No, I think you're right. I think it has been tightened up. They've stuck to a more of a formula, which sounds, it sounds like a criticism, but it's not when you're talking about this, this type of, or this genre,
Yeah.
this role. I think you need to deliver what people want, and yeah, I think that's a very accurate observation, Ian.
We move back to Mason's home.
Well, just before we do,
Okay.
Columbo's leaving and he's playing with Mason here because he says one more thing. He wants to talk about himself right now. Does he have time?
Yes, a little personal consultation.
Mason says, no, I don't have time, get out. So Mason's, Columbo's toying with him here, isn't he?
Also giving the impression he could drop in at any time.
Mm-hmm. Putting him on edge.
That's it.
As you say, yeah, we're back to Mason's house. And Joanne enters, expecting Mason, but finds Columbo.
Yeah, well, she sees a light on and visits the house, and Columbo's there, and he takes her through to the kitchen. But
He has to coax her there because that's been the scene of a dreadful murder.
Yeah, but he convinces her, and then again he takes her by the hand, which seems a bit gratuitous, and she shows him where the attack was, and he spots something on the roof.
Yes. She tells him that Charlie was shouting for Eric when she found him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked about that.
Yep, and as
briefly.
you say, the Columbo asks about the hook above the death scene.
Yeah, actually, it's before we started recording we talked about this. She says that Eric was on Hunter's lips, he was shouting for Eric, but Columbo doesn't make a connection with that being the phone call.
No.
That doesn't get brought up. Anyway, yeah, there's a hook on the roof.
She says she knows nothing about it.
No.
First time she's seen it.
Yeah.
She tells him that she called the police from the guest house as the old-fashioned telephone, which was nearby, was dead or wasn't
working
because it had been unplugged. She didn't know that. She then confirms that Mason brought the baby spotlight back that weekend, and Columbo notices that it was from a film ranch, and he tips his hat goodnight to W.C. Fields just before he leaves.
Yeah, obviously respects the man.
Mm-hmm. And we go to this film ranch from where the
Callahan
spotlight.
Ranch, yeah. This is one of my favourite shots in all of Columbo that I've watched. He gets out his car and the tumbleweed blows by his car, which is parked outside a saloon.
Yes.
And he just moseys on down the street.
Yeah, it's a lovely sort of change of scenery. You weren't expecting it.
It's great sounds as well. There's a sort of swinging, creaking sound. There's wind.
Yeah.
Something crashes off
Just like
camera.
a Western, yeah.
It's great.
And he notices recently used hooks and chains and things like that outside one of the buildings.
Yeah, I think my initial thought was, is that hook just like the one at Mason's house? But no, I think what he's seen is the clean
used.
bit where it's been connected to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds the thing that's come down, hangs it up, and then the camera freezes on it, which was interesting.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen that technique in this episode.
We then go to Charlie's apartment.
Yeah, Mason shows up, uses a spare key to get in, and as you correctly pointed out a few weeks ago, he does not replace it where he found it immediately.
Sure. He notices the photograph of the three of them,
Yep.
his wife and Charlie, and he places it face down before searching and finding a number of photographs of Charlie and his ex-wife, or his wife who was killed, in amorous poses. These days it wouldn't be very
Affectionate
scandalous,
poses maybe, but
yes, certainly more than friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's about to leave and he returns the photograph back to its upright position, but then he jumps as Columbo appears from another room.
That's coincidental.
We've seen this a few times, Columbo happening to be in a vital position or location at the same time as the killer, most notably in Try and Catch Me at the dock or the pier.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he is following them. I mean, that's what a cop would
Well,
do.
in this case, though, he's been there ahead of Mason because he's already had those photos
Sure.
in his possession.
Yeah, that's true.
Mason pretends he's looking for a file they were working on,
Yes.
and Columbo shows him a suit that's missing its jacket. He says he doesn't recognise it, and he goes to leave, but Columbo's got more questions.
What are they?
He's asking if Mason knows whether Hunter had a special woman in his life, and the answer is different women, nothing special,
Yeah, he was a ladies' man.
essentially.
And Mason leaves, and we see Columbo ponder alone. He's thinking through where he is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he goes through and puts the suit back without its jacket on the pile of suits on the bed. Now, that's a room, this is the only scene we have in this room. You wonder why they bothered setting this room up.
Sure.
Columbo could just as easily have done his thinking in the main room that they were in. Or,
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, it's just...
It's only a 73-minute episode, this, so
yeah.
I suppose they had to extend it. Perhaps they were short by a minute or two at the end of filming,
Yeah.
and they thought, right, we need to
Could
create
be,
another
could be.
few moments. We go back to the guest house.
Yep, Joanne's packing to leave.
Yes, and
Pouring with rain
it is.
outside.
I think is she holding her teddy bear again, smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. This teddy bear's not smoking a cigarette.
No. Eric appears, and it's quite sinister, isn't it? He says that everything has to die.
You mentioned that at the start. So that's tied into the lecture theatre moment.
Yeah. She, however, seems quite comfortable. She says that she could have made him happy.
Yeah, she's not quite back in control, but she's recovering a bit.
She then thinks that she's about to make a revelation.
Yeah, play her trump card here.
When she tells Mason that she knows that Lorraine and Charlie were having an affair.
Yeah, he plays it quite cool. He gets slightly angry at her for not telling him previously, and then he says, no one must ever know, and it looked to me a lot like he was about to strangle her.
He was about to strangle her. I think he played it well because he looked surprised, which she would have taken for surprise at her revelation, but it was in fact the surprise at realising that she knew about this, I think. And I think, you're right, he was about to, I think he would have. Although, I don't think it was, I'm not sure if it was planned when he entered
Well, Lucy doesn't know she knows.
No.
But that's information that can lead to his being convicted.
Columbo bursts in time just to potentially save her life.
Yeah, he doesn't know even after he does it, that's what's happened.
Yeah.
But he's come for his private consultation.
He has. Before we listen to this consultation, we'll quickly mention the actress who played Joanne Nichols.
Yes.
Mentioned her earlier. Everyone knows who she is. It was Kim Cattrall, born in 1956, most famous for being in Sex and the City, Mannequin, Big Trouble in Little China, and Porky's. You might want to get her into the gents' laundry room.
Right.
If you've seen Porky's.
I've not. No. People who have will appreciate that, I'm sure.
She was also in Star Trek 6 and auditioned for a part in Star Trek 5, which she didn't get.
She was a Vulcan.
The rumours are that she had a photo shoot taken on the deck of the Enterprise, wearing just Klingon ears, and Leonard Nimoy found out and had the images destroyed.
It's probably Vulcan ears, because Klingons don't have fancy ears.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, Vulcan ears, Klingon ears, I don't know. She was messing about in the buff, just a pair of fake ears on.
There you go.
Yep, but Leonard Nimoy, yeah, doesn't stand for any of that sort of nonsense.
No. Put his foot down.
He did.
Maybe kept a few copies.
That is, well, he's dead now, so you can't slander the dead.
Probably not.
No. Yeah, he kept lots of copies. he used to sell them, he used to trade them online.
Autograph. Live
Yeah.
long and prosper.
He also used, no, he didn't actually sell them. He used it to blackmail her.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why he was in Sex and the City too.
Was he?
No.
We're only joking, of course.
Of course.
Probably.
They play a word association game.
No, before that, I've still not finished my trivia here.
Okay.
Her film debut was in 1975 in a movie called Rosebud.
That's a considerable coincidence.
And here's another one, not quite as light-hearted. She had a ticket for the Pan Am flight which exploded over Lockerbie in Scotland.
Did she?
Yep, but she decided to go shopping instead.
That's bizarre, because just this morning I was reading a Quora article about people who just missed planes that crashed.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't in it.
No. It may not be true, but that's what I've heard.
There you go.
Sorry, so where do we go from
Yes, we
there?
go back to this private consultation between Columbo and Mason, and they get a bit of word association going.
Let's set the scene, because
Okay.
it's nice. They are, I think it's downstairs in the guest house. They're in front of a roaring fireplace, and they're enjoying a lovely looking glass of red wine.
Yeah, well, it's clearly pouring rain outside, so it's nice respite for them.
The framing of this shot I thought was nice. You're just them in front of the fire, head to head.
Mano a mano.
Yeah. Before they play the word association game, Columbo admits that the word that would sum him up most appropriately would be murder.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's a homicide attempt.
Yeah, I mean, Mason says that it means he's too attached to his work.
Mm-hmm. And then they play this game, in which Columbo's responses reveal, I think, his beliefs about the case.
To an extent, also something about his family as well.
They then discussed Columbo's theory that the dogs were trained to attack. We can hear what their thoughts were.
Okay.
I'd say you had a wholesome enough childhood, and you're something of an overachiever, Lieutenant. But how did we get from murder to word?
Well, it's those dogs, sir. I keep coming back to how maybe there's some kind of a signal. Some kind of a special attack word that the dogs will respond to.
But then the dogs would have to be trained.
The worst of it is, if someone did train the dogs, they could dangle that word right in front of me and I wouldn't even recognize it.
But the dogs would, according to your theory.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, the dogs would certainly react to the word.
But isn't there an order for the dogs to be put away?
In 48 hours. This is terrific wine, sir.
As Columbo leaves through the gate, Mason tells him that the K was indeed from Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
And then they mention the sort of key plot points of the movie, and Mason uses the word rosebud.
He does.
Before we go on to the next scene, let's quickly discuss Nicol Williamson, who played Dr. Eric Mason.
Very good killer.
I've mentioned him before.
A long time ago.
Episode 1 of the Columbo podcast. And it was a trivia question.
It was. People can go back and check that out if they don't believe us.
Yes. He was one of the two Columbo killers who came from my hometown of Hamilton in Scotland. I should say for people on the forum, because I've mentioned before, I was actually born in Bells Hill, along with some other well-known people, but I grew up in Hamilton, just a few miles along the road. So that's my claim to fame. 2 Columbo killers from Hamilton.
There's none from where I'm from.
No. There's lots of real-life killers.
No, there's not.
Okay. Nicol Williamson was regarded by many critics as the finest actor of his generation. He was a powerhouse in Shakespeare, and especially on the stage. Playwright John Osborne stated that he was the greatest actor since Marlon Brando. Samuel Beckett, indeed, said he was touched by a genius. Harold Wilson raved about him to Nixon, who then invited him to perform a one-man show of Hamlet at the White House, which he did. But he was fairly highly strung and temperamental, and he was also known to perhaps shout at an audience member and not always get on, well with his co-stars, etc.
Doesn't play well with others.
No, I don't think so. The unfortunate thing is that before his death, or even 10 years later, when he was interviewed about Columbo, he couldn't remember much about it, the episode. Now, for many people, being the killer in Columbo would be a fairly big thing, or something they would enjoy, a piece of work perhaps that they would be asked to because they were a star. It'd be a little notch on their bedpost, as it were. But at the time he was going through a divorce, needed the cash, done it for that, and can't remember much about the episode or what he turned up. He phoned it in not phoned in, but he turned up, done his job, and left. So he wouldn't. That may not be entirely accurate. It may be because of what I said previously. Maybe he's just been a little bit hard to work with or engage with. Maybe he doesn't. Yeah. Being a Shakespearean actor, maybe he thought it was beneath him and couldn't be bothered indulging. Maybe, or maybe he was maintaining a persona in the interview. Yeah, could be. But I think we can see a fantastic actor and performer, and I think that it's highlighted by the fact that he would have grown up with the same accent as myself. So his acting, I think, is testament to his acting abilities that doesn't quite sound like me. There you go. There certainly are worse accents in Columbo amongst the killers. Oh, there's plenty. The handyman from Dagger of the Mind. Remember, was that Joe? Something or other. Ah, it was shocking. Yeah. At least nobody's been Irish so far. Oh. We'll get there. So we go back to the police pound, as it were, and Columbo is there with the dogs. He's playing back a recording that he's made of his word association games. The words in the tape recorder aren't doing anything for the dogs. Nope. But when the phone rings again, they're alerted, and Columbo has to go and take the call because it's the judge who is given the destruction order. Yes. Judge Metzler. Yes, who apparently is a friend of Mason's. And also the uncle of Alvin Metzler. Yes, the black sheep of the family. Yes. The accounting secretary. From Bye Bye. Sky High IQ, yeah. Columbo is pleading for more time for the dogs, but while he's on the phone, his colleague, Mr. Begley Jr., comes through because the dogs are going berserk and have mauled the recorder. Yes. So he's able to establish... Well, it's presuming they haven't destroyed the recorder. He'll be able to establish what the trigger word was. Yes. And then we get a Rocky-style montage. I was going to say there's a fade montage scene of Columbo and Trainer working on, doing press-ups. And while the sun sets in the background. Yeah. At the end, they run up those steps and the dogs are cured. Yeah. I thought that was an enjoyable little montage, nice little scenes. Yeah. It's a decent way to, I suppose, show that the passing of time, isn't it? Halfway through the montage, Columbo falls asleep in his car. Yeah. And he has to get woken up. It's apparent that the trainer is retraining dogs. Do we see Laurel and Hardy in the montage? No. It's not clear that it's them that she's working on, but it is. Yeah. And this is maybe dubious because apparently overnight she completely deprograms them and retrains them. I don't know if that's realistic. It sounds like a lot of nonsense to me. Yeah. But anyway, it's fun for the story. Yeah, we go back to Mason's home. Yes, this is a creepy scene. If you think of it from his point of view, it's horrifically creepy. Very. He arrives and he hears the phone ringing. There's a dummy hanging in his kitchen, and then the dogs come in. The dummy's wearing Charlie's suit, and it's hanging from the hook. Yeah, the dogs arrive in the scene, followed by Columbo. Yep, and Columbo shows how they worked this all out. That the murderer had unplugged the other phone to make sure the dogs were in the kitchen when the phone rang. Yes. And then he starts a game of pool. We've seen this before. Yeah, he's enjoying a game that he's good at. Yeah, was it Greenhouse Jungle that he had a game of pool? Yes. And also he played in what episode was it? But it was buying chili in a cafe, and he spoke. Who was it? He was speaking to a young. Was it in Ransom? Possibly. I think. Possibly. He was speaking to Margaret, the talented and beautiful Margaret Williams. Yes. And
Anyway, so he's playing pool here, but during the game he's revealing more and more information because he's hidden it in the pockets of the table just to taunt the killer.
Yeah, he shows Mason a tennis ball which has teeth marks on it, and he says that he found that at the ranch.
He found it at Callahan's where the killer trained the dogs.
Yes, with the straw dummies.
Yes.
He also found a patch of Charlie's suit.
The missing jacket, yes. Mm-hmm. And then there's a photo of Charlie and Lorraine, one of the pile that Mason took that Columbo had taken before he arrived.
Which shows motive.
Yeah, and then, as I predicted way back at the start, the EKG with the increased heart rate at the time of the call. And Columbo found Mason disappointing. Mm-hmm. For such a smart man, he left a lot of clues.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more detail in this scene. He also says that he can't prove that he killed his wife, but he says that he can prove that he killed Charlie. And Mason says that he can't do this without the command word, or the attack word.
Yeah.
And just after that, as you say, he produces the heart monitor graph.
Yeah, he says also that Mason got himself caught in a lot of stupid lies.
Yes, and he also knows that he killed him with a telephone call, but that, as you say, he was disappointed with Mason because, he got himself into, for someone so intelligent and smart and in control.
He made a mess of the whole thing.
He did. And then we have the drums beating again, to replicate the sort of the heartbeat.
And for the second time in 3 weeks, the killer tries to kill Columbo.
Yes. He calls for the dogs.
Yeah, he's going to set them on Columbo. He gives them the attack word. Mm-hmm. So this is it. You're saying that they didn't need the phone to kill, and I said maybe they did need the phone.
But did the phone not ring here at all?
No, I mean, I had wrong right at the start of the scene. So
yeah, that got them there. Yeah, the phone. Yeah, so the phone. Yeah, so it could still work. It could be like,
Are they still an alert from the phone, or is it just the word?
Who knows how long the phone, the first part lasts for?
Yeah. Anyway, he says the trigger word and the dogs. They initially snarl.
They snarl, they growl.
They look angry, and then they go over and kiss Columbo.
Yes, they jump up on him and they kiss and slabber, and
so they've been completely deprogrammed in a montage.
Yes. We hear Columbo's explanation.
Is that what you call a conditioned response, sir? The way you just turned those dogs on me?
You knew the command.
The point is, sir, you knew the command. I didn't know it. I just heard it. It was on this tape machine. You see this, sir? That's what they call a voice-operated control. When this is attached to this, like this, and somebody talks, it switches on automatically. Now, I had this in my pocket that night a few weeks ago when you and I played the word game. And I played that for the dogs. And just by accident, sir, they heard that part where you and I stood out by the gate and talked about Citizen Kane.
And Charles Foster Kane dies.
And that's where it all begins.
With his last word, Rosebud.
It's a nice finish.
Yes.
It was an enjoyable episode.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I enjoyed the repartee between Columbo and the killer. I thought there was a decent story. I quite liked the bit at the end.
Yep. Clues were fine. The killer had the level of arrogance which is a trait of many of the Columbo killers. I've not seen it for a while, I don't think.
No, but it makes for a good episode.
It did, yeah. Yeah, no complaints overall. What do you want to do? Will we do the episode review? We'll do some trivia first?
Let's go with our usual method and do the trivia, and then we'll finish up with the episode review and look forward to next week's season finale.
Okay, the 5th of April 1978 at the 73-minute length. James Frawley was the director. We've seen him before. This is his third of 6 Columbos. Tom Lazarus was the writer, or he wrote the teleplay, born in 1942. He also wrote for Jake and the Fat Man, Stingray, and War of the Worlds. Anthony Lawrence wrote the story. He was born in 1928, and he was involved in 4 Elvis movies. He also wrote Bonanza, Ironside, Hawaii Five-0, and Cannon. In terms of trivia, what have we not covered so far? There was a poster on the wall in the memorabilia room, of the 1944 movie The Suspect. Now, this movie sort of sets out the formula for Columbo, because in the movie you see the killer commit the crime up front, and then we have a polite, non-aggressive cop who befriends the killer in order to establish his guilt. So I think that poster must have been a nod.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. The original title of this episode was The Laurel and Hardy W.C. Field Citizen Kane Murder Case.
The copyright issues with that.
A little bit wordy. Couldn't fit it on the TV guide, probably.
Well, they got bye-bye Sky High IQ.
Yeah. Maybe the response to that title was not favourable and they thought, we can't have it. In 1978, Nicol Williams had a supporting role in the Neil Simon spoof The Cheap Detective, which starred Peter Falk. So, same year as this.
Yeah.
Worked together. So let's crack on.
Yep, okay, let's go.
Motive.
Revenge, or justice, depending on your point of view.
Clues. The phone call and the receiver dial tone situation. The taking the dogs away at the weekend. The attack words. The straw, hook in the kitchen. The stuff being found at the ranch. The missing suit jacket. The amorous photographs. And the heart rate graph.
Yeah. I suppose you could say the spotlight was a clue to the ranch, but it wasn't a clue to the killing.
Yeah. The gotcha. The attempted murder by use of the attack word.
Essentially.
Not too sure about that myself. I'd need to think about it. Now, next week we have the season review, so perhaps we will ponder it more.
Yeah, and come back to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But did you like just in general terms, did you think it was a...
No, I did. I liked the way that they wrapped the episode up.
Well, that's us, Ian. We've got one more episode of the original run and season 7.
That's when Netflix runs out of Columbo.
Yeah, damn it. Next week's episode is called The Conspirators.
Okay. Is it about the JFK assassination?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's
Looking forward to that.
Okay, I think that's us. It's been quite a quick episode this week.
Well, not that quick.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the shorter ones.
Well, we'll
Feels
see.
like it.
It seems like a 1 hour 12er to me.
I'm going 1 hour. I'm going 1:07.
Okay.
We'll see how. I mean, I can edit it so I can bring it down to whatever I want. So actually, I'll take out all this garbage at the end, and it'll be 1 hour 7.
We should maybe explain to the listeners that there's a running in-joke. When we stop recording, then we think every episode's going to be 1 hour 12, and there's never yet been an episode
that
lasted 1 hour 12.
Averages, Ian, averages. Although I think we worked out the average is 119.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get
Anyway.
the average down.
We'll see folk next week.
We will. Thanks to everyone for downloading, listening, rating and reviewing. Please keep it up.
Yeah. Cheerio.
Bye bye.
You have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.